Welcome to our weekly World Climate Change News. I'm Alexandra, and today's headlines are the following. Famine in Madagascar exacerbated by climate change. French court holds government accountable for climate actions. New energy plan to reduce carbon emissions. Agriculture can curb climate change. Climate change is destroying Senegal's historic site. Biden announces climate summit. Calls for EU environment due diligence law. So let's get started. Famine in Madagascar exacerbated by climate change. The United Nations has issued an urgent appeal for $75.9 billion in funding to address the famine in southern Madagascar, with over 1 million population in the affected area. The region has been in the midst of dry weather with deficit rainfall, the situation further worsened by violent winds, locally referred to as tormentas. The increased frequency and strength of these violent winds has been attributed to climate change, with profound impact on the sustenance of vegetation, human lives and livestock in the region. French court holds government accountable for climate actions. In a landmark ruling, the Administrative Court of France has ruled that the French government has failed to meet its commitments to address the climate change crisis. The court instructed the French government to initiate necessary steps to meet its commitments with regards to lowering the greenhouse emissions in the upcoming decades. The ruling is expected to encourage climate-friendly measures within the country as well as set a precedent globally. New energy plan to reduce carbon emissions. Poland's climate ministry introduced a two-decade energy plan on Tuesday, which will be the framework of the nation's transition away from coal. The state energy policy objectives entail the use of renewable sources, while preserving the current reliance on domestic energy supplies like coal. With this strategy, renewable energy will comprise 23% of sourcing and reduce gas emissions by 30% by 2030. However, campaigners state that this is not enough to mitigate climate change. Agriculture can curb climate change. Contrary to the belief that agriculture leads to carbon emissions and climate change, it has been proven that it can help revive lands, protect from climate change or extreme climatic events, and improve livelihoods. Luis Mabulo, 2019 UN Environment Programme Young Champion of the Earth from the Philippines, founded the Cacao Project, which aims at providing livelihoods while restoring abandoned land through tree planting, creating economic forests and nurseries, and promoting fair trade and reforestation. Climate change is destroying Senegal's historic site. St. Louis, a low-lying town nestled between the mouths of Senegal River and the Atlantic Ocean, is sinking. The former colonial capital of Senegal has always been prone to flooding. However, experts say that warming temperatures mean that St. Louis is threatened with near-total submergence. Tragedy has long stalked the city, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which was one of the main departure points during the transatlantic slave trade. Now it is threatened by environmental disasters due to climate change, in the shape of coastal erosion and sea level rise. Biden announces climate summit. On Wednesday, January 27th, US President Joe Biden signed a number of orders aimed at tackling climate change. Amongst this was the announcement that the US will host climate summit in April. Biden's moves will put climate action at the center of governmental policy. The planned climate summit will draw invaluable global attention to the urgency of climate change. Calls for EU environment due diligence law. The European Parliament's Legal Affairs Committee adopted a report calling on the European Union to make it legal requirement for businesses to protect both the environment and human rights in their supply chains. This would aim to increase scrutiny on the impact of business practices on climate change, not only in the EU, but in all countries involved in trade and production with EU member states. The report urged the EU to impose mandatory due diligence checks as regards environment and human rights risks. This was Alexandra for Weekly World Climate Change News. If you liked the video, subscribe to our channel and see you here next week.